Welcome to Headphone News, Montreal edition for Monday, December 2, 2024.
Canadian banks prepare for earnings reports amid economic changes. Major Canadian banks are getting ready to release their fourth quarter earnings reports as worries about mortgage defaults and recession start to fade. Analysts stress the need for these banks to demonstrate significant earnings growth to support their high valuations. The S&P/TSX Bank Index has jumped about 12% since the last quarter, with Scotiabank rising by 19% and CIBC increasing by 17%. However, TD Bank is facing serious challenges, including a $3 billion fine for anti-money laundering issues, which has caused a slight dip in its stock price. Currently, Canadian banks are trading at 12.1 times their earnings, and provisions for loan losses have reached around $4.4 billion, a 23% increase from last year. The Bank of Canada has cut its key interest rate to 3.75%, which is expected to lead to a 1.2% decrease in total mortgage payments next year. While there's cautious optimism for the Canadian economy, concerns about credit and defaults still remain. Investors and analysts will be keeping a close eye on the bank's performance and outlook to gauge their future growth potential.
Rising HIV rates in Canada. Recent data shows a troubling trend in Canada, where the number of new HIV cases reached 2,434 in 2023. This represents a significant 35% increase from the previous year. In contrast, global statistics indicate a 22% decrease in new HIV infections from 2010 to 2021, largely due to advancements in sub-Saharan Africa. This rise in Canada raises important questions about our public health strategies and access to healthcare. Montreal, one of Canada's major cities, has seen a notable spike in HIV cases, highlighting the urgent need for targeted prevention efforts. Factors contributing to this increase may include stigma, lack of awareness, and insufficient healthcare access. The implications of this trend could lead to higher healthcare costs and a necessary review of public health policies. To effectively tackle this public health challenge, we must implement prevention measures, improve education, and provide essential resources for those affected.
Calls for police training reform in Canada. Recent fatal police shootings in Manitoba, Canada, have led to renewed demands for reform in police training. On November 22, 2024, 17-year-old Elgin Muskego was shot and killed by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on Norway House Cree Nation. Just 2 days later, 24-year-old Jordan Charlie was also shot and killed by Winnipeg police. Both individuals were reportedly armed with sharp objects during these incidents. Experts, including criminology professor Temitope Oriola from the University of Alberta, stress the importance of longer training periods and better conflict resolution methods to build public trust and reduce the use of deadly force. An inquiry into a 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia, which resulted in 22 deaths, previously pointed out flaws in the RCMP's training model. Ongoing investigations by an independent team into these recent shootings may lead to significant changes in policing practices, raising crucial questions about community safety and the effectiveness of law enforcement in Canada.
Remembering the Polytechnique massacre 35 years later. Every year on December 6, students at École Polytechnique in Montreal, Canada, take time to remember the tragic massacre that happened 35 years ago, which claimed the lives of 14 women. Biomedical engineering student Sophie Baudry shared her heartfelt reflections on the victims and highlighted the need to support women's rights and push for stricter gun laws. Today, over 30% of students at École Polytechnique are women, showing progress in gender representation in engineering. Advocacy groups like Polytechnique are actively working for legislative changes regarding gun control in Canada. This massacre remains a significant moment in Canadian history, shaping ongoing conversations about violence against women and the urgent need for tougher gun laws. Honoring the victims through remembrance and advocacy underscores the critical importance of addressing gender-based violence in our society.
Women as primary breadwinners in Canada. A recent report from the Vanier Institute of the Family reveals that women are increasingly becoming the primary breadwinners in Canadian families. Over the past 30 years, women's contributions to family income have significantly grown, now making up more than 50% of total income in many husband-wife households. This marks a considerable rise from 1/3 in 2022 and 1/4 in 2000. However, this trend comes with challenges, particularly for mothers, who often face what's known as the motherhood penalty. This means their income contributions can drop by about 3 to 4% for each additional child they have. This situation highlights broader societal biases and economic inequalities. Understanding these trends is essential because they impact family dynamics, economic policies, and corporate practices. By raising awareness, we can work towards supportive measures for working mothers, which will ultimately influence social services and labor market dynamics.
Montreal nonprofit expands access to abortion pills amid U.S. concerns. Women on Web, a nonprofit based in Montreal, Canada, has helped over 100,000 people access abortion pills in 200 countries. After the recent U.S. presidential election, requests for these services jumped from about 35 to 150 each day, showing rising worries about reproductive rights in the United States. In Canada, abortion remains legal, and around 1 in 3 women will have one during their lifetime. The increase in demand for abortion pills highlights how political changes can impact healthcare access. The organization offers online consultations, evaluates individual needs, and helps with prescription filling and delivery. Understanding these issues is essential for both individuals and policymakers as they navigate the changing world of reproductive healthcare.
Quebec launches new healthcare agency. Quebec, a province in Canada, has introduced a new healthcare agency called Santé Québec. This agency will oversee all healthcare facilities in the province and employ 330,000 healthcare workers. The goal is to cut down on emergency room wait times and surgery wait lists, addressing long-term challenges in the healthcare system. The agency is also tasked with eliminating a $1.5 billion CAD shortfall in healthcare spending, which is about $1.1 billion USD. Genevieve Byron, the president and CEO of Santé Québec, aims to improve the healthcare network by reducing duplicate services and sharing best practices. However, one of Quebec's largest trade unions has raised concerns, arguing that merging facilities might not enhance services and that budget cuts could harm patient care. The establishment of this agency reflects ongoing efforts by the Quebec government to reform the healthcare system and improve access to services for residents.
Quebec's forest industry faces tariff threat. Quebec's forest industry is facing a serious challenge with a proposed 25% tariff by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on Canadian goods. This tariff could put over 50,000 jobs at risk in Quebec, which is already dealing with existing taxes on softwood lumber imports that have risen to 14.5%. The aim of these proposed tariffs is to tackle issues like illegal border crossings and drug trafficking between the United States and Canada. The forest sector is crucial for Quebec's economy, and these tariffs could lead to job losses and higher costs for consumers. Recent tensions in U.S.-Canada trade relations highlight the vulnerability of this economic partnership. Major companies in the softwood lumber industry, such as West Fraser Timber and Canfor, may face significant hurdles due to these tariffs. This situation emphasizes the need for strategic actions from the Canadian government to safeguard local industries.
Investigation into detainee's suspicious death in Montreal. The Sûreté du Québec, or SQ, is investigating the suspicious death of a detainee at the Rivière des Prairies detention center in Montreal, Quebec. On December 1, 2024, officers responded to the scene where the detainee was found unconscious in their cell and later pronounced dead. This troubling incident raises serious questions about how detainees are treated and the safety measures in place. The SQ is working to uncover the details surrounding this death, which could lead to important changes in detention practices. Previous incidents have highlighted the urgent need for accountability and better care for individuals in custody. As this investigation unfolds, It may also impact public trust in law enforcement.
Protest in Montreal calls for justice for Papigatuk brothers. In this episode we explore a significant protest that occurred in Montreal, Quebec, on December 1, 2024. This demonstration was held to demand justice for Joshua and Garnet Papigatuk, twin brothers involved in a tragic police shooting on November 4, 2024, in Salouet, Quebec. Sadly, Joshua, who was just 26 years old, lost his life, while Garnet sustained serious injuries. About 50 people gathered at the protest, including family members who shared their grief and anger over what happened. The event highlighted ongoing issues of police brutality against Indigenous communities in Canada, especially in the northern region of Nunavut, which struggles with high poverty rates and tense relations with law enforcement. The Premier of Quebec, François Legault, was specifically called out by protesters who demanded accountability and reform. This incident raises critical questions about systemic racism and the urgent need for improved community policing practices. Understanding these issues is vital for fostering meaningful dialogue and change in the relationship between Indigenous peoples and law enforcement. Join us as we dive deeper into these pressing matters and their implications for society.
Quebec daycare workers strike for better pay. In Quebec, Canada, daycare workers are taking a stand by going on strike to demand better pay and contracts. Around 500 workers from 16 childcare centers, represented by their union, plan to strike on December 4, 11, and 18, 2024. They are seeking equal pay with teachers, as they currently earn significantly less. This strike is part of a larger movement in Quebec advocating for improved wages and working conditions. The strike could disrupt childcare services, impacting many families. Increased awareness of childcare issues may also influence future government decisions and funding.
Montreal Canadiens face tough weekend in NHL. This past weekend in the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens had a challenging time, losing to the New York Rangers 4-3 and then falling to the Boston Bruins 6-3 in Boston, Massachusetts. Cole Caulfield shined by scoring 2 goals against the Bruins, bringing his season total to 16 goals in just 24 games. However, the Canadiens struggled on defense, allowing the Bruins to score 3 quick goals in under a minute during the first period. Head coach Martin St. Louis voiced his frustration with the team's performance, emphasizing the need for more experience among the players. Currently, the Canadiens sit at the bottom of the NHL standings, which presents significant challenges ahead. As the team works to improve, these recent losses could affect fan engagement and future ticket sales. The Canadiens are determined to turn things around as the season progresses. That is all the news for today. Thank you for listening to today's Headphone News. News summary brought to you by AI.